The thrilling story begins by showing the city of Boston, where the crime rate had skyrocketed. There were frequent thefts happening every day. The security in Boston City had been increased even more, but the crime rate showed no signs of stopping. Now, we are introduced to a team of people who used to commit small-scale thefts together. The leader of this team is named Doug, who wanted to settle down by committing a major robbery. Therefore, he made a plan with his teammates to rob a bank. They had planned everything meticulously, including how they would escape and where they would go. An employee is shown transporting all the money from a nearby bank. Suddenly, Doug and his team, wearing masks, burst into the bank and began attacking everyone. Doug and his team became busy collecting all the money in the bank. They instructed everyone, every person and employee, to lie down on the floor so that no one could try anything clever. They then encountered a lady whom they made open all the lockers. Doug's team was very professional, so they executed the robbery with precision. They had turned off the cameras and all mobile phones, and they burned them in the microwave to ensure that no one could connect with the outside world. They also removed all evidence from inside the bank. Claire pressed the emergency alarm with her foot, which meant that the police could arrive at any moment. Doug suspected that the bank manager was behind this, so they began to beat him severely. However, it was Claire who had activated the alarm, and she was sitting in a corner. Doug and his teammates were aware that the police could arrive at any time, so they took Claire as a hostage to ensure their escape. If they encountered the police on the way, they could threaten to kill Claire to escape. Despite this, the police always arrived late to crime scenes. During their escape, Claire noticed a tattoo on the back of a man and memorized it well. Doug and his team had blindfolded Claire to prevent her from seeing anything. Doug and his team then took Claire with them and left her at a beach. They threatened Claire, saying that if she told anyone about them, they would kill her entire family. Claire was very frightened by this threat and didn't share anything with anyone. The robbery was successful due to excellent planning. When the police officers were informed about the case, it was assigned to a capable officer named Adam. When Adam examined the robbed bank, he discovered that the thieves had erased all evidence, indicating that they were professional criminals who knew what they were doing. Adam also went to speak with Claire, but she didn't reveal much. She only mentioned that the thieves had threatened her and her family, saying they would be killed if she spoke out. Adam decided that he would definitely find out more about these thieves. On the other hand, Doug and his team had divided the stolen money among themselves. However, one of Doug's associates, named Jam, reminded him that they needed to deal with Claire. If she provided even a small piece of evidence to the police, they could get caught. Therefore, they thought they should further intimidate Claire to ensure she wouldn't speak. Doug also needed to confirm this because their previous associate had ended up in jail in a similar situation, and they couldn't take that risk again. For the time being, Doug and Jam went to distribute the money to their accomplices who had helped with the robbery. They then went to a nightclub to enjoy themselves and have drinks. While having fun, a woman named Chris arrived at the nightclub. Chris was an old friend of Jam's. In fact, Chris and Doug had been in a relationship, but they broke up soon after. Although Chris wanted to get back together with Doug because he had a lot of money, Doug didn't respond at all and left for home. While Doug was sitting at home watching TV, Chris came in uninvited and went directly to Doug, getting close to him. Doug didn't reject Chris and started enjoying her company. The next day, Doug began to keep a close watch on Claire to ensure she didn't provide too much information about them. Doug tried to befriend Claire, meeting her in a casual manner and falsely presenting himself as a construction worker whose father had also worked in construction and was now deceased. Claire, busy chatting with Doug, gradually became comfortable with him due to his friendly behavior. Over time, they started meeting more frequently, and their friendship deepened significantly. On the other hand, Inspector Adam continued to investigate the thieves. He managed to arrest some suspects who might be linked to the robbery. Through continuous questioning and torture, Adam discovered that the thieves were likely around 30 years old and shared some similarities. For instance, they were all educated and had graduated from the same university. Therefore, Adam, along with his research team, set out to find more information about them. Despite the difficult task of searching through different universities across the city, Adam was determined to catch them. Adam also intensified his interrogation of Claire, trying to gather more information about the thieves. Claire made it clear that she was dating someone else, so Adam had no chance with her, and she didn't provide any information to him. During this time, Claire spent a lot of time with Doug, sharing many conversations. They had become very close friends, confiding in each other. Doug wanted to learn everything about Claire and use it to his advantage. Claire eventually told Doug that the FBI agents were coming to question her, and she didn't know what to tell them. Doug asked her who the police were suspicious of, but Claire didn't have that information. Doug advised Claire not to reveal anything to the police, as it could later pose a threat to her. If the thieves found out that you had informed the police about them, they would definitely come after you. Doug wanted to ensure that Claire didn't say anything. He then started talking about his family, which kept them both busy in conversation. Claire also mentioned to Doug that some people were bothering her, thinking she was involved with the thieves. This made Doug extremely angry, and he went with his friend Jam to teach those people a lesson. They beat up the gang members who had harassed Claire. Although Doug intended only to intimidate the man, Jam, in a fit of rage, shot him in the leg with his gun and even showed his face. On the way back, Doug was very angry with Jam, telling him that he needed to control his emotions or he would ruin their entire plan. Meanwhile, Adam and his team received photos of several suspected students and, after gathering information, discovered that one of them was Jam. Following Adam's orders, they began to keep a close watch on all the suspects, with Jam being their primary target. However, Jam was completely unaware of this. Doug was having lunch with Claire and talking to her when Jam unexpectedly showed up in the restroom. Jam immediately realized that Doug was not just befriending Claire, but had become her boyfriend. Jam met Claire briefly, but Doug quickly put his hand on Jam's back when he saw the same tattoo on Jam's body that Claire had noticed during the robbery. After returning, Jam was furious with Doug for getting involved with a woman who could potentially send them all to jail. Doug defended his actions, saying that he had done it for a good reason. He believed that if he stayed close to Claire, she would eventually reveal everything to him. After all these events, Doug and his friends started planning another robbery. They immediately began preparations, making sure to clean up all traces and leave no clues behind. They put on their masks and set out for the heist. After they had stolen the money from the bank and loaded it into their car, as they were leaving, a guard apprehended one of their accomplices. With a lot of police arriving at the scene, Jam immediately shot the guard and they started fleeing. Several police forces pursued them throughout the city, but they managed to avoid capture by continuously firing at their pursuers. Doug, who was driving, rammed several police cars to help his teammates escape, causing the officers' vehicles to become heavily stuck. The thieves also changed their cars to avoid detection by the police. When Adam learned about this, he ordered that all bridges leading into the city be closed, but it was too late. The thieves had already crossed the bridge, and the police officers were unable to catch them. Once again, Doug and his team managed to steal a large amount of money. Now, Adam was most suspicious of Jam based on the evidence he had gathered. Consequently, the police arrested Jam and all his associates, including Doug, without any specific reason. Adam was questioning them about the recent robbery, but Jam only responded that he would talk after his lawyer arrived. Adam also questioned Doug, telling him that if he revealed the truth, he could face many years in prison. Adam then offered Doug a deal: join him and help capture the thieves, and he would be released. Adam repeatedly visited Claire to gather evidence, but she refused him because she had fallen in love with Doug. However, Adam was determined. He showed Claire Doug's profile and claimed that he was the thief who had robbed the bank. Adam hoped to instill hatred towards Doug in Claire's mind, although he was not entirely sure if this tactic would work. Meanwhile, a small argument broke out between Doug and Jam. Since Jam wanted to leave their group, Doug informed him that he didn't need them all and that he had an offer from the police officer to save himself by naming all the thieves. If he confessed, everyone else would be caught. Because of this, Jam reluctantly stayed with Adam, feeling quite cornered. The next day, when Doug went to meet Claire, she was extremely angry. She had learned the truth about Doug and told him to leave. Doug couldn't understand how Claire had discovered their secret, but he continued to keep an eye on her. Doug and his team now felt they were likely to be caught, as the police were closing in on them. To secure their future, Doug and his uncle planned one final heist, the biggest of their lives. After this, they wouldn't need to work again and could retire to another country. Doug visited Claire one last time and gave her a pendant as a token of his love. They then proceeded with their plan to rob the National Bank. This time, their approach was different. They disabled the bank's security systems, and Doug and Jam, dressed in police officer uniforms, entered the bank. After bypassing the security guards, they drew their guns and proceeded inside. They filled the bags with money, making sure they had more than enough so they wouldn't need to steal again. However, Adam and his team had surrounded the area. They knew about the robbery in advance, thanks to information provided by Claire. Doug had trusted Claire with all the details, which led her to inform the police. As the officers began firing inside, Jam fought back fiercely. During the chaos, one of Doug's accomplices was shot and fell unconscious. Fortunately, their first-level vests protected them from severe injury, but it was clear that Doug and his entire team were now surrounded by the police. As there was no way to escape, the injured man among them suggested that he would take the ambulance and the others should escape, wearing the police uniforms. He said that since the police were only searching for the thieves, this would be their chance to get away. The heavy-set man got into the car and drove off, but his plan failed. The police officers attacked the car's tires, stopping him. A sniper then shot him directly in the head, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, Doug and Jam, disguised in police uniforms, had started to blend in with the officers. However, Adam received new information that the thieves were wearing police costumes. He began to watch the officers who were acting strangely. His attention was drawn to Jam, who was moving through the area in a police uniform. Adam quickly grabbed his short gun and went after him, ordering him to stop. Jam, however, did not stop and instead ran towards a car, immediately opening fire. He showed no hesitation in killing the police officers. The situation escalated into a fierce gunfight. Jam kept running, but the police shot him in the legs. Severely injured and running out of bullets, Jam fell to the ground. Realizing there was no chance of escape, he deliberately came out to be shot by the police, not wanting to spend years in prison. Doug, watching from a distance, saw all this and realized it was useless to stay. He quickly stole a police car and drove away from the scene. The police arrived at Jam's lifeless body, but couldn't find the rest of the group. Doug, having eliminated his remaining accomplices, kept all the money for himself. He called Claire and proposed that they leave for a distant location. Claire agreed, but the reality was that the rest of the FBI officers were at her home, tracing her call. Doug, from another apartment, observed these developments. So he says, "We will meet again someday." Doug wrote a letter and hid a large amount of money in Claire's garden, ensuring she would find it one day. After leaving the remaining money behind, Doug headed to another country where he could live comfortably, fulfilling the dream he had from the start. The police officers, now defeated, realized they would not catch him. Thus, our story ends here.